Alright, back again, Luke here, and today I'd like to welcome you to an episode of this old control panel. As you can see in front of you, this is one of them old guns we're going to be taking a look at. It's a SNK Uzi style gun here, and what we're going to be doing is making up a control panel, put this little puppy on there and shoot some of that. Now this thing's a bit heavy, but I got me some wood, and I got myself some wood, and we're gonna try and, get this thing started. What I've done here is I've made up a template. Got up a little control panel template here that I made out of some cardboard. It's left up over one of them boxes I had, and taped this thing all up here. One thing you'll notice is on the sides, I got the sides all cut off here, and I'm going to put a little bit of an edge on here. I don't want it to be just a square control panel. I want it to be, kind of nice and look a little bit sassy, have a little bit of flair to it. So that's what we're going to do. And as you can see here, it sits off the ground, about a good 6 centimeters or so. That's good enough. I think the original one here that I made up is a little bit too small, but I'm going to try and adjust that with the next one. I got some wood here that I already pre-cut. I'm going to show you here. Get this right here. And here we go. Here's the wood that I got all pre-cut. And what I'm going to do is take this nice wood here. I'm going to cut off the corners. And I'm going to slap some glue on this thing. And we're going to get this thing rocking. So, yeah, let's get to work on this. I'll be back in just a sec.
Alright guys, back here again, and hopefully that intro didn't scare you too much, just messing around a little bit, trying to have some fun here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and cut these corners here, cut them off, probably like maybe a 5 centimeter or 6 centimeter by 6, just to get this corner off, to make it so that you don't wind up bumping into it and kind of, hitting your elbow on it. It gives it a little bit more of a control panel look. And then once I get done cutting that, then I'll go to the back here and start using some kind of bracing to go along the back so I can put these rails on there. You can see that I've already got cut, and these are going to go along the bottom, and that'll be the main stands for this setup here. So what I'm going to do now is just going to try and mark this off here, like I said, about 5 by 5, and once I get this all marked off, then I'll just, on a diagonal 45-degree angle, I'll just wind up cutting these off. This will be a 90-degree angle there, and that should be good enough. So I'll get on that, and I'll be back in a little bit. Alright, so as you can see here, what I've done is, since I don't have any power tools, I'm going to be doing this all by hand. I've marked this off here, and I have a couple of clamps here that I have for my ruler. I'm going to use that as kind of a guide here so I can try and get this as straight as possible. And then I'm going to chop this corner off here. And hopefully it'll come out decent. All this is going to be done by hand because unfortunately I don't have any power tools and I can't use them inside the house or in the neighborhood just because they're too noisy. So we're just going to give this a shot here. And this is a Japanese style saw. So for those of you guys, a hand saw for those of you guys who are wondering about it. Luckily this wood is not super thick, so alright, so let's take this clamp off here, these 2 clamps, and take a look at this. It's, for the most part, it's pretty straight. It looks like it may be a little bit beveled, but that's okay. It's not such a huge problem. But at least that part there is straight. So that should work out quite nicely here. I'll have another piece of wood that I can put on the front here. Maybe just use a little bit of filing and maybe just kind of smooth this out just a little bit here. But that's not too bad for the front part. So what I'm going to do is the exact same thing on this other side. And I'm going to chop this other end off here. And then once I get those off, then I'll start to work on the bracing on the bottom here for the bottom leg part. So we'll get on that, and I'll be back in a little bit. Alright, so as you guys can see here, I have this end chopped off on this side. I also have the other end chopped off on the other side, so that should give it a really nice, you know, a little bit of a nicer look here, more or less kind of like a control panel is. There could have been different ways. We could have chopped it here on a bigger angle and maybe chopped another flat spot in the front or something like that, but just trying to keep it semi-simple here. The next thing what I'm going to do is on the bottom of this, what I'm going to do is flip this over here, and I'm going to get some bracing. I have these poles here. And what I'm going to use these poles for is I'm going to run these poles along the side here for rails so that I can have something to not only mount to the surface of the top here, but also mount the sides here too as well. So it'll give it a little bit more stability. Hopefully it won't, you know, if I just use regular glue here to just hold it on top of this board, it's not going to work out so well. And since this thing actually has a bit of some paint coating on it, what I think I might do is actually sand it just a little bit to expose some of the bare wood so it gets a better contact with this, and I'll wind up putting these strips, like I said, across here and across the front, and then we'll put all the different sides on there and try and get it to hold in place. I'll be putting some glue on the bottom of this when I put it on there, maybe drill a couple of pilot holes and put some tacks in there too to keep it in place, and then that'll give me this surface here to nail to for the side walls. So I'm gonna get on that right now, try and put all of these pieces around where I need them, and I'll be back in a bit. Okay, so as you guys can see here, we've got our bracing pole all in place. And this thing has a 1 centimeter gap on each side to allow for the side panels to go on, as well as a 1 centimeter gap in the back here to allow for our back panel to go on. So this will be all the way down here. For the most part, it seems pretty good. Seems pretty straight and pretty clean. So what we're going to do is take this off here. I've got a line across the bottom to mark it, and we're going to put some glue on the back of it, and then I'll drill a few pilot holes in this wood, and then we'll put some tack nails in there to try and keep it in place, and we'll let the glue harden up there and sit, and then we'll move on to the other sides. So I'll get on that right now. Alright, so as you guys can see here, we've got the corners here. These are all chopped off and ready to go. We've got all of these bracers in here that we're going to use to mount those front panels and side panels too, so it doesn't just flop off or fall off. And we've got this thing tagged down as well, so got the glue underneath there, and it's starting to dry and set up really well. So once this thing hardens up a bit, we're going to come back and put on the front panels and the side panels, and yeah, it should start to look like a bit of a control panel when we get done with it. So we'll get on to the next step. It might take a couple hours here, or well, we might let this thing sit overnight or so, and then once that settles up there, then we'll go ahead with the next part. But I'll be back in a while here, and we'll jump on to the next thing. Okay, so as you guys can see here, I'm hand beveling these pieces. This is quite challenging work, but I managed to get this one done over here and the other one on the other side. So I'm just gonna finish up this front part here, and then we'll work on the side corners. So it's getting there. It's almost done. We just got to get these side corners on here, and then put some tacks in there and get it in place, and that should be the control panel basically done. Then we'll go to mounting the rest of the guns on the top. So I'm gonna finish beveling this piece, and then we'll make up a couple small ones there for the corners, and hopefully we'll be able to show you guys a finished product here in a few minutes. So be back soon. Alright, so as you can see here are some of the final stages of the build process. I've got the control panel all built up, I've got the guns mounted up here, and they're pretty much ready to go. What I'm going to have to do eventually is I'm going to have to get some more screws here, because I don't have enough screws to put these mounting brackets on. But everything is situated here on the top part of the control panel. I've got the front part here as smoothed out as I can, possibly with you know, the limited amount of tools that I have. Keep in mind I just have like a regular handsaw and some 40 grit sandpaper and a drill that I'm trying to do this with, and you know, managed to get this far, so this is really good. I also have the guns here. They're able to turn both ways, so this is good here for both of these. So there's no hang up or anything like that. So when they do go to turn, they turn freely. What I had to do in order to do this is I had to cut out the bottom. I had to kind of cut a hollow square around the gear so it would pivot back and forth. I had to make it actually a little bit bigger because it'll pivot from left here to right. So I had to make up for the difference here of the pinion gear that was going to the right and to the left. So. But I got that all worked out here, and the thing's basically ready to go. Got a small hole here cut out in the front, and that's going to be for the wires to come out, and then I'll have to patch up some of those wires and try and get another connector so I can fix the second player controller. Right now I put the first player controller here with the connector on it, so it should be ready to go. But what I'm going to have to do is go back and check the wiring. I'm going to have to check and see if there's any trouble with the guns here once I get it all hooked up. But nonetheless, these things are mounted, and this thing's ready to rock. So it's probably going to take a little bit longer here for me to get everything wired up. But as a beginning starter video, this is the conclusion of part 1 here. Getting these things all mounted up and getting the baseboard here made up for it. But yeah, that's about all for me for right now. Like always, I'll put up another video here soon. So thanks for watching. Heavy monsters there. Got the old start button here. Ba-ding!